Okay, hello. If you're watching this, it's because I would like to invite you to our commissioning visioning session. We're going to have a commissioning visioning session in Oakland at the end of Q1 or beginning of Q2 this year. And I'm hoping that this video will sell you into wanting to come and provide a little bit of context. We're calling it a visioning session, and I know that sounds corny, but it really isn't a training session or a feedback session. It really is a visioning session. At the crux of it is this: we, Kaiser Permanente, buy a lot of commissioning. We're writing a few $1 million in commissioning contracts every year. And yet, at least organizationally, we can't claim that we're wonderfully happy with what's going on with commissioning. We have a lot of major projects where commissioning doesn't get done, and particularly doesn't get done on time. We often fight, frankly, a lot of times to get commissioning done during a contract period or during the end of a contract period. We have highly visible projects, major projects, where commissioning issues have stayed open 6 months, 9 months, or a year after move-in. Some of those have been really embarrassing. Um, and we have, of course, general complaints from designers and from contractors about the burden that our commissioning program places on projects. Frankly, we have some subcontractors that openly admit they pad their costs for our commissioning requirements. And then, of course, we have complaints from our commissioning providers that, our designers or our control subs aren't meeting their uh, obligations to the projects. But I think more than anything else, we have major projects where I think we've done the right thing. We're engaging commissioning services as early as schematic design, and yet we still wind up with significant system issues, major system issues at the end of the project and beyond the end of the project. And then, of course, there's energy, right? In our design program, we face this huge challenge that HVAC system designs promises don't come true a lot of the time, whether it's new building energy modeling or savings to an existing building. Us HVAC guys tend to talk real big and then under deliver. And at least in my mind, commissioning is supposed to address that performance gap. In theory, when everything is working right, those energy goals are going to be achieved, or they'll be achieved more closely. Um, so it's really difficult to look at a big picture and call our commissioning program wildly successful. So the question is here is how can we make the program more successful? And I want to show you some internal numbers here, just so that you understand a little bit of the programmatic context. Okay, these are 2018 projects. We consider anything over $1 million in California or a $500,000 outside of California to be a pretty major project. So in 2018, we had 427 of those projects that closed, that reached substantial completion nationwide. Now, most of those projects don't need commissioning. You got a lot of projects that are finishes, and roofing, and IT projects, and equipment projects. Those don't need commissioning. So you can see straight off the bat, 284 of those projects don't require commissioning. Only 143 projects required commissioning in 2018. So of those 143 projects that closed in 2018 that required commissioning, they fall into three buckets. First off, the bottom bucket, we have 22 projects that just didn't do it. Now, obviously, that's an internal problem. That means that I failed to communicate the commissioning requirements. That means that our project manager didn't plan on it, so we didn't hire it, or we didn't have those responsibilities covered anywhere on the project team, and so we didn't do it. And we've confirmed that. Each one of those 22 projects is one where either I or a member of my team has personally confirmed that the project didn't do anything that resembled commissioning. And we were pretty liberal about did you do anything that resembled commissioning. Next, we have the 83 projects that are in limbo. If they did commissioning, they never finished it in that they never posted a final commissioning report. And if they didn't do it, then their project manager hasn't really admitted that yet. So their status is status unknown. And then finally, we have 38 projects where we actually got a final commissioning report, and we have that final commissioning report in our system that we can look at. Now, every time we get a final commissioning report, we do a check on it. And this is what that check looks like. So one of the members of my team looks at it and does this checklist. It's a 10-point checklist for commissioning reports. And it covers what you would expect it to cover, right? Was there an OPR? Was there a BOD? Did training get covered? right? There's etc. But among those 10 items are the few that we consider our litmus tests. And those are item 4, 4A, and item 7 and 7A on this list. First, did you have an issues log? And with that, did all the issues on your issues log get resolved? Right? That's a key litmus test. And then the second one is, did you have a trending period or an acceptance period? And did the acceptance period actually demonstrate the performance of the system? Those two are really our key litmus tests for what we're currently considering successful in a commissioning effort. So then back to this slide, and we're getting up into these red numbers, or the orange parts, right? That's how we rate commissioning reports internally. So of the 38 reports that we got, 24 of them had issues logs that showed all the issues resolved. Okay, that's pretty good, I guess. It's 2/3. But if you want to say it the other way, you could say that 1 out of 3 of our final commissioning reports that we got in 2018 did not have an issues log with all the issues resolved. And when you say it that way, it doesn't sound great. It's kind of a 33% failure rate in terms of the commissioning reports that we got. And then you get into acceptance criteria. Acceptance testing and system demonstration, or integrated testing, if you want to call it that. Only 4 of the reports that we got in 2018 had an acceptance period where the trending or the acceptance testing demonstrated the intended system performance. Some of them had trending periods, and then they didn't do anything with the trending periods. And of course, that does not mean that all the rest of the systems here didn't work. It absolutely doesn't mean that. But if commissioning is ultimately about documenting successful and acceptable system performance, then we can really say that there were only 4 times in 38 did we actually reach the point where our system functions were validated with the data. And that's pretty bad. That's about a 90% failure rate. So we want to start a conversation. I hope and I think that there are ways to do this better. And we don't want to do a lessons learned meeting. We've done commissioning lessons learned meeting before. I'm sure that anyone who's watching this video has done a commissioning lessons learned meeting. And the things that came up in your lesson learned meeting were probably very similar to the ones that came up in our lessons learned meeting. I'm going to guess that anyone watching this has a list similar to what's on the screen, or could come up with a list similar to what's on the screen sort of right now, right? I, of course, have to wonder how much of this is unique to Kaiser. How badly are we stepping on our own feet? Are other owners able to achieve the end that we're after more frequently or more effectively? Honestly, I'd be very skeptical to hear that. I think I'd have a hard time believing that. I'd be a little defensive about it. But I could easily be wrong. And I think I'm open to that. It could also be that our expectations are too far out to left field. Maybe this idea of a building where the HVAC and the energy systems are validated and ready and reliable, maybe that's just as mythical as a unicorn, and we need to set some other objectives. I don't know. I don't actually know the answer, and I'm not pretending to know. The only idea that I have is that if we keep doing our commissioning business the way that we did our commissioning business in 2018, we're very likely to get the same results that we got in 2018. So I want to have a conversation. What can we do differently? What are the solutions to these issues? What has worked for other people, or what do we think can work to tunnel past some of these problems and get to an era where things are going differently? So hopefully you're interested in that